Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Cotunquit Chronicles, which has been broadcast and developed here in the island of Cotunquit in our studio. We acknowledge the custodians of the land where we are broadcasting from today, including the Narragansett Nation, and we pay our respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. I'm your host, James Allen, and I'm joined here most weeks, and this week by the extraordinary adventurer, extreme sport enthusiast, and all-around great gal, Ashland Komoric.
Welcome and hello to all those in Cotunquit and thereabouts and throughout the world. Today's program, we will be discussing some very specific topics related to politics. So if you don't want to talk about that or listen to that, I guess you might want to just not. But we have some very interesting cabinet choices from the President-elect Trump. I never thought I'd be saying that, but there it is, President-elect Trump. And recently named a number of new potential cabinet members that they're going to be put forth to the Senate, I believe, and the Senate would make decisions based on apparently whatever Trump wants. President-elect Trump, pardon me. So the first person that I'd like to talk about is the person that he put forth for Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth. And Pete Hegseth is a former, I don't know what his rank was, but he's a veteran of the war in Iraq and Afghanistan, those two wars. And he is a Fox News host. So he will now potentially become Defense Secretary. Isn't that an interesting choice?
I mean, he does have, military service, which I would think might be a good thing for Defense Secretary. Fox News host.
Yes.
Kind of alarming.
He's been very vocal about the generals that President-elect Trump has in mind for removal. And he has been in the past very vocal about those things.
And why does he want to remove them?
Which person are you referring to? The President-elect Trump or Hegseth?
Well, yes, both of them. They want to remove them because they're too woke or something.
That is the word.
Everybody likes to, it's kind of a weird word, but it seems like, being awake just makes you look around, and that's where progress comes from, right?
That's
you
what
realize
I remember
that there are things that need to change, mostly for the better, I would say. But
True.
these guys are very, they're nervous about change.
I don't know about that, but given the amount of change that they're purporting, apparently there's going to be a considerable amount of change in the coming months.
I think they're
years.
worried about change that affects their sort of white majority, super wealthy
Male, largely.
status.
However, the next person that comes to mind that's been promoted for the position of Homeland Security Secretary is the governor of South Dakota, Kristi Noem.
Who is a woman.
She is a woman, right? But she is a President-elect Trump loyalist who once who was seen as a potential candidate for vice president. So he believes in this particular person. Do we believe that we can trust her with the security of our homeland? Given the circumstances that likely will abound with the proposed deportation of, I think, 11 million people that might have illegal status or status that is at this time being considered for as candidates for members of citizens, I should suggest. So that's an interesting choice.
Yeah, you notice that Trump, towards the end of his campaign, inserted the word criminal.
Yes.
So he's somewhat stepped back on deporting, because the reality is, how will you even pull that off? Step back on deporting everybody.
Well, perhaps the attempt was there to criminalize everyone that is.
Oh, they're all criminals, so therefore,
at this time legal in this country. So there's a percentage of people that are still awaiting. They're seeking asylum, correct? From deplorable situation in their own countries.
Yeah, but he wants to deport people that are already here as well, right?
Yes, families. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be hard to do. And then if you actually did that, you would not only lose a good part of the workforce and who are working in jobs that many of our citizens don't want to do, and then you will also lose all of their buying power, because they're living in our communities and shopping in our stores.
Yeah, it's like I feel this similarly on that. I think that there's a unseen cost to all of this, of course, that it's, the cost to do all this deportation, which is, cause a significant amount of strife, which Homeland Security is going to be critical at that time, just to keep, I imagine, the peace, and to secure the country. And this, I don't really understand.
I think it seems that Kristi Noem has written a couple of books. So I think the best way to get to know her is that we need to read one of her books. Or both of her books. You can read.
I can read.
No Going Back, and I can read Not My First Rodeo.
Okay, that'll be a deal. I'll read. What's it called?
No Going Back.
Oh.
New York Times best-selling author.
Wasn't that the Harris campaign's slogan? We're not going back. She wrote a book about that?
I don't know what the book's about, but apparently she has written these two books, which are bestsellers. So
similar idea, I guess. We're not going back.
She's all about keeping taxes low, limiting government regulation, fighting government intrusion, and keeping government open and honest.
So the next candidate is CIA Director John Ratcliffe. Mr. Ratcliffe is a former Texas congressman who served as a director of national intelligence during Mr. Trump's first term. National intelligence. I think if the nation were more intelligent, they perhaps wouldn't have missed the voting opportunity, because it's apparent that about 11 million people decided not to vote on Tuesday, or weren't aware of it. That there was this very, very important vote, because I don't think Trump only got about 1 million, President-elect Trump only got about 1 million more votes than he did last time. Well, the Harris-Walz campaign were about 10 million short of.
Yeah, I mean, I think they did lose the election more than Trump. I mean, Trump won the election, but they had opportunities which they...
I think so, but I wouldn't suggest that Kamala Harris did anything less than a stellar effort. I think there was certainly some some things that could have been done differently.
Yeah, I
think she
think
worked.
she didn't do enough to separate herself from the current administration, in my opinion.
Perhaps.
And that might have been a risky approach, but I think given who she was running against, she needed to really define what she was going to be, who she was going to be, what her policies are.
I think the Democratic Party definitely needs to do that soul searching and determine what it is that they stand for, because it's not clear at this time. It is a divided party at this time. So there's a far right and a far left, and there's a middle far left, and there's a middle, and maybe. Who knew? And I empathize with her, because how could she know where to land? And let's face it, a candidate has to take on what society's expectations are, right? So the majority, I should say, the majority of society's expectations, and clearly hadn't a good grasp on that. So whoever was advising her, she had they either had to go far left or move back to the middle, and apparently they didn't go far enough to the middle. But who knows? I'm certainly not going to blame.
Yeah, we're not experts in this area, but
I think she did a fine job, and under the stress of 107 days. So there could have been choices that were made earlier, but let's go on. EPA Administrator, this is a curious one. Lee Zeldin was announced.
yeah, this is disturbing.
Yes.
I mean, I think we're still denying climate change.
Not me.
Well, we as a country, apparently, because the people have spoken and they want a president who doesn't seem to be very concerned with the environment. And now he's nominated this guy, and
Drill.
definitely going to drill more and probably do our best to slow down any progress in wind and solar and other alternative energies.
Lee Zeldin, tenure in the House of Representatives, he voted against clean water legislation at least a dozen times, clean air legislation at least a half a dozen times, according to a scorecard from the League of Conservation Voters. So there you have that. So I'm not sure that's a very wise choice.
Yeah, where does this guy stand on nuclear energy?
I haven't a clue on that. I didn't do enough research, apparently, but that's my MO.
I'm just saying, because these guys are also super pro AI, which uses a ton of energy.
Yeah.
And I don't know where we're going to get it from.
It's going to get it from oil.
Yeah, but then
because we apparently are sitting on a lot of oil.
It's a good thing that Elon Musk is, preparing rocket ships to take us off to the next planet. Because we're going to do a pretty good job of destroying this one.
Well, isn't it interesting that we're so twisted up with Elon Musk all of a sudden, where we're depending upon him for our space travel? I used to like it when NASA did all those things. I guess it was too expensive, but now Musk is taking it on. Elise Stefanik for UN Ambassador. Ms. Stefanik represents an upstate New York district in the House and is a member of the Republican leadership in the chamber. Has been a vocal supporter of Mr. Trump. She emerged as a key ally during Mr. Trump's first impeachment proceeding. His minimal experience of foreign policy and national security. So that's the UN ambassador. Apparently, he does not think too highly of the UN.
No, we know he doesn't think highly of the UN.
So we know a lot about the vice presidential candidate here, who is now vice president-elect, J.D. Vance. I'm not sure he's ready to run the country in the event that there's an emergency, but perhaps.
I mean, he's an interesting one. He's a bit of a chameleon. He's whatever people need him to be, it seems like. He's very much a politician, which is sort of anti everything Trump says should be running the government. But based on the debate with Waltz, I was like, this guy's a total traditional politician.
That says some
Slick.
pretty wild stuff. That's
right, but his
sexist, racist. He's
all over the place, though.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing with Trump. You really have no idea what
you're going to get from day to day.
Yeah.
That does not lead to a secure feeling whatsoever in my mind. So I'm concerned about that one too. Susie Wiles, Chief of Staff. She was named. Miss Wiles, the political tactician, managed Mr. Trump's 2024 presidential campaign. Now, I noted that when he was accepting or speaking to his workers at the event after it was clear that he was going to win, and Kamala Harris had not conceded at this point, but in the middle of the night decided that he had won. And he started talking to his group, and then he brought her up, and she declined to speak on the microphone and gave the opportunity to speak to her assistant. Very interesting. She's a very reserved person, apparently. So I don't anticipate that she's going to say anything contrary to what President-elect Trump would like to hear. So that's the chief of staff. But that, who knows? We'll see. She is a woman, and that's a positive sign.
What are the responsibilities of chief of staff?
I think it's providing opportunities for the president to see and visit with staff members. So these folks all want to have some.
Is it a secretary?
No. It's a role of that's associated with making choices as to who has access to the president. Oh, and the border czar. Now, this is a new. I really hesitate to use the word czar. This is too much czar. It says the czar is really a king, correct? And Thomas Homan. Now, this person seems a bit dangerous to me. Mr. Homan served as a senior immigration official in Mr. Trump's first administration, will manage Mr. Trump's campaign promise of widespread deportations of undocumented immigrants and the tightening of measures that allow some of them to stay in the country legally. He has decades of experience in immigration enforcement, but
he was in the Obama administration.
Was he?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. But he was the one that was behind separating family members, if you remember, and the children being separated from the parents to dissuade people from coming across the border with their families. So once they were here, he separated them, and there was he considers anybody that crosses the border illegally to be a criminal, even asylum seekers. So they're all in his mind criminals.
Well, I mean, technically they are criminals. It's just a matter of treating people humanely, right?
Right. And so far he doesn't have a very good track record. Michael Waltz, the National Security Advisor, former Green Beret and current Florida Congressman. Mr. Waltz and has an interesting name because his name is Waltz, and the person with a similar name, Walz, ran for vice president on the Democratic ticket. Mr. Walz is widely regarded on Capitol Hill as a hawk on China and Iran. He served multiple combat tours in Afghanistan and opposed President Biden's withdrawal of troops from the country. Okay. Well, he's got some experience in that area. He's up for the task, I hope.
Yeah, I'm all of these people and Trump's track record does not bode well for the Palestinians.
No, not at all, does it? Well, that's all we have on that. That's what we have to date, as far as new. These all require Senate confirmation, but obviously the Senate turned in favor of the Republican Party as well as the House, and it's apparent that the judicial system is also leaning that way on many of their decisions. So. It's going to be a ride. I think it was very responsible for us to have this discussion. It's not all about yucks and laughs and fun here in Katunkwit. We have some sobering.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Katunkwit is fairly democratic.
And not as
place,
democratic as I thought. When I say democratic, I mean they vote for Democratic
okay, yes.
Party, yeah.
So that's true that 30% of the population voted for Trump, which I found interesting. But for the other 70% who are wondering what they're going to do, I would say you got to get involved and go out there and work on the things that are important to you. Because really, I mean, it's all going to fall onto the state and the local governments to make any change under this administration.
Yeah, that's one of the things we need to do, and I also think you should do whatever it is that is at this time. Like, if you're not taking that mega bike ride that you've always talked about, go do it. Make sure that you find
before the world comes to an end.
The last island in Narragansett Bay and do the sleepover with Stuart or Ricky or one of those two people. But
yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I was listening to Boston Public Radio, and they were talking about what people were doing, and there was a lot of talk of doom eating and doom shopping.
Wow. That's an interesting way to go about it.
But yeah, I think
if
you're worried about the environment, then find your local group that's doing something to help the environment or whatever. Well, no, I mean, there are groups that are working to.
Well, we're raising food for people that can't afford fresh food, for instance. I've got a group of people.
Right. I mean, whatever it is. Get involved.
We grow some food for people. So there's going to be, there's going to be hungry people, no matter the circumstance, whatever the politics is. And, it's interesting that we should say this because our sponsors tonight, oh my goodness, it's a different group of sponsors than we've ever had. So here we go with our commercial break. Today we are sponsored by Sandra's Gold and Silver Shop, and we're now buying any gold and silver ingots and statuary for above market prices. Come today until January 20th for the highest prices on all of your gold and silver items. We're located in Veteran Square near the liquor store. Get your Cuervo gold and your silver Cuervo after you drop off your gold and silver. It's a new business, brand new business. This one's out there. This just popped up on November 6th. Bastion's relocation offices are now open. Our former travel agency has now morphed into a full-scale relocation office with the travel agency experience and the lawyers to get you living in the country of your choice. All calls are safe and confidential. We're located in a revolving office. Locations on Katunkwit Island and nearby Aquidneck Island. Call and we will identify a safe place to meet for your first free consultation.
This is sort of interesting because we always talk about where are we going, what country are we going to go live in, but
Now it's real.
isn't that feeding right into wouldn't these people be happy if all of the people who don't agree with them left the country?
You can't say these people.
We can't say these people?
Who are you referring to specifically?
Trump and his administration. I mean, whatever it is, whether even if Harris had won, if all the Trump people left the country, I mean, that would be quitting, right? Like, we can't just abandon the country because we're not happy with the administration. We have to, fight to make things right.
I don't like to use the word fight, particularly right now, but anyway, there's this opportunity for you it's a new business.
Sorry, I didn't want to knock your business.
It's Bastion's relocation offices, and you can use them if you choose to, but it's a free consultation, and they have offices very clandestinely somewhere in this town, and then there's one over because they don't feel comfortable providing these services anyway, but they do for a fee. Underground Bunker Base Incorporated. There's another one. Underground Bunker Base Incorporated is now providing bids for all your doomsday needs. We offer fully functional facilities located conveniently in your yard with air purification units, fully stocked pantries, electrical generation, underground fuel tanks, and communication devices for end times. We also provide fully automated weaponry in case your neighbors get the idea that they want to be part of the rest of your family's eternity. Isn't it an interesting way they express this bunker base business? Underground Bunker Base Incorporated. So
this is if you want to not only put your head in the sand for the next 4 years, if you want to put your entire body down there.
Yeah, that's so well said. Yeah, this is a total underground experience. You could just go right underground right now, and you'd be good for well over 4 years because the pantry's full. I mean, we've kind of experienced some of that with our COVID memories. I just have no intention of doing that one. I don't think Underground Bunker Base Incorporated is going to do too well. But we don't... Oh, shouldn't say that. Sorry about that. UBBI. I think you guys are going to do great here in Kentucky. And here we are for our fourth... Is it 4? Yeah, we have 4 sponsors tonight. Who's doing the soliciting on this? We have a whole group of people working on the...
Your vast staff.
My staff, and they're doing the selection here. And this is Army Surplus and Other Sundries. Yeah, I like the name. Army Surplus and Other Sundries, located in Phillips Highway on Quinnipiac Island, is having a 1-week sale starting Wednesday, December 25th. It's Christmas, isn't it? And running through December 31st, which is New Year's Eve. Used Army Jeeps, Humvees, weaponry of all types, and cold weather clothing will be on sale at 25% savings on all items. Drive away in style in a vehicle that can run over a house, if need be, or dress for Arctic conditions in a new pair of Mickey Mouse thermal boots. As Sam from Army Surplus and Other Sundries always says, you never know when the sun will stop shining.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that they're probably going to put their cold weather clothes on sale because it's just getting warmer and warmer, but maybe they're predicting something even scarier that will block out the sun.
Yeah, that's what that is right there. But they're getting 25%, they're giving a 25% savings.
Yeah, and you'll be able to run your Humvee because we'll have so much more gasoline once they just start drilling and drilling.
And you could probably get your bunker and stay down there at night.
Oh, then you don't need your Humvee.
Oh,
unless you need to raid the neighbor's bunker.
But you have already given up your gold to Sandra and your silver. And your neighbors have already relocated. So there you have it. The 4 sponsors tonight. Very interesting group. I urge our staff to go out and find some different sponsors, perhaps. There's definitely been a distinct change in the character and nature of our sponsor advertisers. Suddenly, hasn't there been, Ashland?
Yeah, it's kind of, that's bringing the whole afternoon down.
Okay. So we've been discussing at length the bear and the nightingale over the last few weeks, and isn't it interesting that we've come to a point in this particular piece that's very, very, ultimately very appropriate, I think, for what we're discussing, if I can find that section. But we're into section 5 now, which is kind of exciting. So we finished 4, and with 4, there was a massive buildup of animals and birds at the border where this blueberry patch is, and we've seen some discussion from Graybeard, who was an older, wiser bear amongst the bears, and they're just going to try to ride this out with Big Bear making all of the decisions. And Big Bear, if you remember, was representing the character of Putin, and Zelensky was the nightingale, if you remember. So there you have those. So there's this whole perception that the Nazis have infected the land of Ukraine. The land of the blueberry patch, and that they were trying to make the bears that were living there and around there speak bird language, which, if you recall, that was purported by Putin. So we have, this is a satiric piece, as you remember, and for those of you who have been listening. So we have all these animals and birds that are perched at the border, ready for battle. Section 5. By sunrise, the bears began to move toward the line. Some were reluctant, but they moved in unison, almost as a big mass standing up to so tall to show their chests. They hurled feces over the barricades and large rocks, but the line didn't move. As the birds and animals were injured, new soldiers moved to their places, new animals, fallen birds. Flocks of birds flew in from all over to take up spaces in the field. The bears moved forward, slipping on the first grease piles, some sticking to lick the grease from their feet. Big Bear cursed loudly and struck one of the bears that stopped behind his head, knocking him forward onto the embankment. "Wave 1, fly," Gray-Green called emphatically from his command post at the rear. A group of hawks carrying long pieces of sticks and some carrying stones launched into the sky and dive-bombed the bears that were closest to the front lines, dropping debris on their heads. The bears swatted aimlessly at the steady barrage as they climbed the greasy embankment, easily crushing the stick embankment. The birds and animals retreated 10 feet as the bears progressed, luring them into the second line of defense, large pits where helpless bears, including Big Bear, fell, slowing down their progress. The birds were tasked with filling in the hole and covering the bears with soil as the bears struggled in the deep pits. But the pits weren't deep enough, and Big Bear and others climbed from the holes, wiping their eyes and attempting to stop the birds from scratching dirt into the holes on their comrades. Big Bear suddenly knew he was in for more of a fight than he'd bargained for from the outset. Flight 2, bring on the sap, Gray-Green yelled above the hysteria. The sky turned dark as birds flew circles around the bears, hitting them with waves of sap, gooey, sticking sap collected in the bears' fur, in their eyes, and on their feet, rendering them less efficient. Yet they pressed on as Big Bear insisted that they fight. Toadstools, Gray Green yelled as the thousands of animals hurled ripe toadstool mushrooms at the bears, filling the battlefield with noxious powder. The bears coughed and spat up blood. "We may win this day," Gray Green told his nearest general. "This day." "This day?" the general asked. "One at a time. This day, then the next, till they leave," Gray Green corrected himself. "All days," the general said as he ordered a group of nightingales to harass the bears as hundreds of birds lifted to the sky, burying the bears in a sea of confusion. The bears retreated behind the line as Big Bear stood alone in a shallow pit, desperately licking grease and sap from his fur. He too moved back, while swatting at nightingales like a child trying to keep mosquitoes away. Big Bear stood on two legs, towering over his comrades. "We are bears! We are bears! We are bears! We are here to find the Nazis that are corrupting our bears and speaking bird languages with them, not letting them speak their native bear talk, lest we forget them. Remember, we are not fighting birds and animals. They are lesser species. Nazi collaborators. Fight on, bears, for you are the kings of the forest, not princes, not dukes, not earls," he yelled while beating his chest and growling at his troops. As he stood facing the gathering with his back to the front line, a badger brazenly rushed behind the line, biting Big Bear from behind in his Achilles tendon. As he bit hard and held on, Big Bear lifted the animal in one swinging motion to the sky, hurling the helpless animal 30 feet into the air, where it then landed on a rock, killing the animal instantly. Big Bear clutched at his ankle. The birds and animals gasped. Gray Green was livid. "I repeat, do not cross that line on foot. Only in flight. We are not to ever engage the enemy on his soil. We are here to save our nation, hold our land, mass, and no more. Am I completely clear?" All the birds and animals along the massive front line and in rear positions nodded their heads in unison. The badgers that were collected on the far side of the field also agreed, but many were upset by the loss of their friend, the first casualty of this war. "We'll have our day," a badger muttered quietly as the wolves visited for support, howling threateningly and prancing along the front line while sneering at the bears that were collecting for another push forward with all members of the bear army. As the bears hesitated, thousands of wolves and coyotes crossed over the mountains far to the east, blackening the countryside. Osprey flew to where Gray Green was planning the next defense with the news. This is big, this is big news," Osprey stated nervously. "Okay, what is it that rides over those mountains and into the valleys below us?" "Are they friend or foe?" Gray Green asked. "Friend, it's the Eagles. They have sent ground troops, wolves, wonderful coyotes to nip at the ankles of those beastly bears, Mr. President," Osprey yelled above the noise. "Where are they from?" "All from the land of the Eagles?" Gray Green asked. "No. Many from that land, but some came from the land with the funny accents, and some from the west, here in the land of Europa." Osprey fidgeted as if he had more to say and couldn't wait. "Is there more to report?" Gray Green asked. "Yes," Osprey said excitedly. "Well, tell me then." "We have a war to fight," Gray Green urged. "The beavers of Europa have dammed the river, diverting the salmon to the west. The bales will run out of food soon when the river dries up." Osprey smiled as he spoke. "That is good news. You have brought excellent news." As Gray Green finished his sentence, Big Bear, with 500 bears behind him, old bears, young bears, mother bears, rushed the front line quickly, destroying fortifications, stomping blueberry bushes and ripe fruit, and filling in pitch piles and grease pits as they moved forward. The battlefield was amassed with birds and animals and blood. Gray Green did all he could to stop the advance with counter-strikes and bird flights and rock drops but the bears persisted, seemingly angered by the previous attempts to break the lines. The bears advanced well into the field, backing the army all the way back to the tree line. The group had lost nearly half of their lands they once shared with the bears, but now defended to the death. "I need a body count," Grey Green called to his general. "What does it matter?" the general responded. "You're right, General Gale. We must fight until we win. Loss is to be avoided, but we have to stop this aggressor," Grey Green called out, while lifting the spirits of the leaders behind him. "We will retreat no further," Gale yelled as he hopped forward to join his troops in harassing the charging bears. As the group of soldiers were forced back to the formal tree line and massed quickly to fortify the woods area, some panic began to find its way into the ranks of weaker animals. Just a few days before this invasion, ducks and geese were waddling around in swimming areas in the nearby lake, and now they were taking on the likes of Big Bear and this gang of terrorists. Small rodents were burrowing below the ground in cool shelters, and now they were mixing with the likes of foxes and coyotes, even wolves. It was unnerving to the weaker species. As the bears progressed, they ravaged foodstuffs, smashed animal homes, filled in groundhog holes, and they eagerly removed nightingale nests and their eggs from helpless, undefended nesting areas. The rabbits wanted to help too, but even Grey Green couldn't think of a purpose for helpless rabbits until it struck him that they could serve as runners on the front lines, keeping leaders aware of any news. Grey Green gathered the rabbits. "I need you to run to the far fields, to the mountain, to provide a message to the coyotes and foxes and wolves traveling from the west." Grey Green could hardly believe what he was asking these rabbits. The smallest rabbit spoke. "We're bunnies, rabbits, and with all due respect, sir, we're good at running and hiding from coyotes and foxes and wolves. How must we approach such a mission?" the meek rabbit asked. "I don't ask that you speak with them. I ask that you be chased to our front lines by them," Grey Green explained. "And what if we're killed?" asked another rabbit, stepping forward. "Well, you could be killed by foxes, coyotes, and wolves that are traveling here to try to help save us, or you could be overrun and likely killed by wild, hungry bears that have any salmon supply awaiting them when they get hungry," Grey Green explained. "We will move out to a spot nearby the coming troops with a member of our group. That rabbit will run for 200 yards and find a place to hide, and the next will take over until we've led them to the front lines," the first small rabbit stated. "That's a fine plan. Now go, Grey Green urged. The bears were hungry and stopped at the wooded edge to eat the last of the blueberries. Some ate bird carcasses, badger meat, rodents that had been run over in the mass of the troops, while others ate smashed eggs. Many moved back to the grease pits to slop up the heavy, fatty grease. The bears were spread out all throughout the battlefield. Grey Green thought this was a good time to counterattack, but he waited till dark when he was assured of the help from Europa and the land of the eagles. As sunset cold, last spits of light from the hills could see help on the horizon. They'd arrive after nightfall, when bears like to rest. Grey Green and his family were rested. He asked his wife, a beautiful nightingale with blondish feathers, if she should take the young fledgling and retreat to the border with the old and the young members of the population. But she insisted on staying, and now she flew among the troops, encouraging them to stand fast and never give up. Grey Green was happy that she stayed, and the other animals and birds were pleased with her leadership. As reinforcement arrived, they weren't sure of their mission. They stood at attention at the rear in the next field, even as the final rabbit came over from hiding and slinked back tiredly to Grey Green's bunker. "Mission complete," the small rabbit said, his pink tongue hanging from his mouth. Well done, rabbits, the leader responded. Gray-Green retreated from his bunker to the back field to address the menacing group of new soldiers. We are pleased that you have joined the fight. We stand at the frontier of destiny. We fight for all mankind, and you are proof of that today as we move forward in the noble defense. The leader of the wolf pack howled in response. The sounds of the bears growling in response in distance could be heard. The wolf pack leader moved forward. I am General Marshal of the Land of Eagles. I've strict instructions to help you defend your sovereignty. We are not to fight on bear soil at any time. We are all here to help your nation, and I'm instructed to follow your instructions as provided. Follow your direction if you and your generals adhere to our rules of engagement. General Marshal said, and then stepped back into formation with the other wolves, the foxes, and the coyotes. A large coyote with 2 black eyes that looked like he'd been socked in the face by a prize fighter stepped forward. He spoke in a different accent. We, the coyotes and the foxes, pledge to fight alongside all of you this grand bastille. We leave all the natural tendencies to fight and compete with one another behind, and we travel forward as one fighting force, said with conviction. A small, feathery-footed fox stepped forward. We chased rabbits from that mountain all the way here. Are the rabbits off limits too? The fox said as all other carnivores laughed, much to the chagrin of the rabbits listening in the nearby woods. We will find a way to feed you. Do not eat the other troops. Birds and all mammals are in this fight together, and we do not feed in traditional ways while on this mission. Is this clear? Asked Gray-Green. A white-bearded gray wolf stepped forward and reared on his hind legs and jumped to a pirouette and landed at Gray-Green's feet, announcing, well, if that's the case, then it looks like we will have to eat fish. The wolf turned and nuzzled one of the other wolves, took his place amongst his brethren. The other wolves laughed quietly. Quiet, quiet. Show some respect. We've lost a lot of good birds and animals out there these past 2 battles. You've just arrived, and we're injured. Our supplies are low, but our troops are ready to fight. Gray-Green paused and moved amongst the wolves, hopping along, a badger at his side for protection. Who among you has not traveled great distances? None of you. Who among you know that you will be fighting for? Know what you'll be fighting for? None of you. You're fighting for all free nations. We expect another attack as the bears are banding together, amassing at the far end of the field, extending their lines, bringing their young cubs to climb high into the trees, to destroy our nests, our burrows, our hives. Our hawks have observed their mothers encouraging them to climb higher, to take risks, to destroy our homes. These are the reasons you have joined us, to fight for a world where all animals can live together as the Great Spirit intended. A large, wise old wolf stepped forward to speak. He raised his head regally, and Gray-Green flew to a nearby perch to listen. The badgers ran to the tree trunk and stood at attention. The crowd of carnivores stood in silence. While we traveled here to this sacred battlefield, I didn't chase the rabbits. You sent rabbits to guide us. Some of us knew what you were doing. Some of us liked the taste of rabbit. I brought a hunting party to that ridge line that sits 3,000 feet or more above this land to look at the battlefield for myself. You, old wise bird, must know what the bears have done up there, don't you? Wise wolf said, pausing for a response. I suspect you mean the ridge that looms above us with rocks and boulders, Gray-Green responded. We observe that there are hundreds more bears there, moving rocks and large boulders to the edge of the cliff. There are enough boulders and rocks to fill in this whole valley. Do you see that large granite piece that sits atop? That is a trigger boulder. Once that's sprung, Everything here will be crushed, including the bears, Wise Wolf announced, as all the coyotes and foxes and badgers and some geese that had waddled over to listen began speaking in hushed tones. Big Bear wouldn't destroy his own bear population, Gray Green announced. And that's section 5.
I know it's probably much later in the story, but I wonder now that the Nightingales have these reinforcements, which animal will represent North Korea?
Well, we have to see, won't we? And there's this mutual annihilation piece coming in here.
Which is the problem with all these, modern wars with the weapons we have nowadays. It's a serious concern.
It's always been a serious concern that becomes even more serious when there is war that could prompt an autocratic leader. And there's 2 of them in that fight now. There's 2 autocratic leaders with nuclear weapons. And neither of them, in my opinion, are stable. One even less stable than the other. So.
And now we have one.
So, we have a few more weeks of The Bear and the Nightingale. So if we, I think it's going to be a few more weeks. That war is, how old is that war now? Ukraine.
Oh my goodness.
3.
Is it?
I think we're into our 3rd year.
I think you're right.
Wow.
I'm trying to remember, it was 2 years ago we had a Ukrainian student here.
I wonder how they're doing.
So can we speak of something less depressing today?
Yeah, what time does Bastion's relocation office open? I guess that would be less you can't, there's nowhere in the world that you can actually leave and be safe from that mutual destruction, right? And it's just, I haven't slept right since 1998. It was when my daughter was born, but my sleep has really become terrible now, just with the uncertainty of this new world. And I imagine others around the world are feeling similarly.
Yeah.
With every action, there's a reaction, right? And with these changes come opportunity sometimes. So I imagine countries like China right now are probably looking for the opportunities that come from change. And believe me, they must have thought about this well in advance of this eventuality where we have a new president.
Yes. On another note, I was wondering if you were considering getting tickets to the new Rhode Island Football Club.
Yes. Yeah, it's $16.85 a game. I think that's... I don't know that I need to get season tickets, though.
I've got somebody who's, I expressed some interest online, and now this guy's contacting me.
Well, I think that, if you needed a ticket, you could probably get one. I don't think it's going to sell out.
Yeah, you could always get a
first
ticket.
year. But to support the program, yeah, sure. And the team's quite good, and they've made it to the semifinals of the championship, so that's exciting.
Yeah, I think it's kind of fun to have our own stadium, I guess. Is it called a stadium?
It is. And I guess it's going to be quite beautiful and really enhance already beautiful Pawtucket, which I've always admired, that part of the state.
Yeah, I like Pawtucket.
Yeah, it's
Very good warm winter farmers market in Pawtucket.
true. And then there's also, I have come to know, through my coaching experience, a lot of great people in Pawtucket that were very supportive of the children in the community that were learning to play. There's of course, there's a Spanish population in the community that supports soccer. So I had a chance to coach a lot of the coaches as a professional soccer coach that I was, and that experience was great in that community. I really liked the people I met. So I think that the support's right there, right? And then, so I don't know, maybe they will sell out, and I'll regret having not purchased the season tickets, but it crossed my mind. You never want to buy one season ticket, right? You want to buy it with another person with the intention of going to the games.
So Eva would not accompany you to the games.
No, she doesn't have the same interest in soccer, but she does go to women's basketball games with me. I go over to the University of Rhode Island, and we watch the women's basketball. And they're an outstanding team, coached by a wonderful coach, Tammy Reese, and her staff. I don't know all their names, but one of my friend's son is one of the coaches, Corey Macchioni. So those folks we like to support, and those games are wonderful, really good. I'm going to go tonight. I'm actually heading over tonight, and I have an extra ticket, so I'm going to head over and see what's up. This year they have some new players that are exciting. Good.
Maybe we should go in on 2 season passes, and then we could take turns, whatever, or if nobody
That's
else
smart.
is interested, you and I can go.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, let's do that. I think
We
that's
should look into
a
it.
good idea. How many games are we? Is there Are there 30 matches?
I don't know. We're going to have to look that up.
Like an EPL season is 30 matches, but I don't know if it's that many. I get pretty busy in the summer with things. However, going to a professional soccer match and supporting something that's emerging is exciting. I like to do that. Let's look into it. I'd like to do that. And maybe we could do a podcast from one of the games. That'd be fun.
We should do a podcast. Actually, I was going to suggest, although it's been postponed, that we should. There's going to be a ceramics pit fire event at the local farm, but we had to postpone because it's too dry to light a fire. But once it rains a bit, we're schedule that. You could come by. We could try to do a remote recording.
I do have an interest in sculpting, clay. I do love that. I'd like to do that. I'd like to actually join that program. I think I have to take a class first.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of a fun class because it's the pit firing part of it is fun if you're into fire.
Yeah. Is there beer involved?
Not when you're at the art center, but at the pit fire, I believe you can bring beverages.
I'm not drinking nearly as much as not that I ever was a big drinker, but, I would drink 3 beers, sometimes 4, with you a number of times, right? But I don't do any of that anymore. Maybe 1 snuff.
Yeah, I've cut way back myself.
Yeah, I don't sleep right.
Because we're getting old. And we're also realizing that alcohol's not good for you.
That's true. I know that Stewart's knocked it out. He's hardly has any at all, right?
Yeah, he's every once in a while.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good. It's not something we need to spend too much time talking about. And I guess I'll see you next Wednesday. Maybe. Because, you never know.
Yeah, I might take up what was the Bastion's relocation offer.
Yeah, there you go. But what is it? There's no indication of what it costs. But Bastion relocation offices, very, very interesting way to get in touch with them, right? All right, so have a wonderful every minute. That's what I say. Just live every minute.
Until next week.
Hey, we're all responsible to live, in my opinion, we're responsible to live full lives. And Ashland does that. She makes the most of her life. And she's a good example. And she forces people like me to step out of my comfort zone now and again. So I urge you all to, if something you wanted to do that, it's legal and you have a chance to try it, get out there and do something. And maybe bring a friend. Try something different. We all have a limited time on this earth, and it's good to get out there and do some fun things. And I am yet to go on that bike ride at night, but I might do that.
Yeah.
You've got a bike ride going. Is it Providence that you do your biking?
The night ride is in Providence. Yeah.
Night ride, yeah.
I've thought of maybe doing something like that on Cattunquet.
Yeah, let's do that.
Then you don't have to leave the
I
island.
don't have to. I can only leave weather permitting and with full permission from the guy that lives up in the North End. I'll see you later. Take care.
So yeah.